The following is a paid presentation of Jung Garden Center. It is time once again for the Garden Doctor here on AM 1430 WBEV. In-house is the Garden Doctor himself, Dick Zondag from Jung's Garden Center in Randolph. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, John.
How are you doing on this 13th day of May already?
I know. It's really getting... Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Indeed it is. What's happening over at the store?
Well, manager at the store says we've got a lot of annuals and vegetable plants. And it is time to get those in. I know there was a warning last night for frost, but I don't think we got the frost. I came out this morning to go to work, there was no frost on my car, and that's usually a good sign that there wasn't any frost.
Yeah, 34 was our low overnight here at the station.
So I think we bit the bullet there, and hopefully we're past that now. But, we've got just oodles of really beautiful annuals. The breeders have been working on annuals very hard, and different colors and textures and different sun things and shade things. And so, because we have the catalog, we tend to get the newer items faster. And so John over at the Garden Center told me he's got a lot of annuals there, 4-packs. There will be 6-packs, 4-inch, a lot of tomatoes, I think 25 to 30 different varieties of tomatoes, both in individual pots or in 4-packs. So, right now is when you're going to get the best selection of colors and sizes. And we have people there that can tell you exactly what you should be planting if you give them the sun or shade instructions. And one of the things that you should be doing as soon as you plant the annuals and the vegetables is give them a good shot of soluble plant food, because fertilizing them when you plant them will work twice as good as if you wait till the middle of summer to give them that extra feeding. So, time to get the fertilizer on them, time to get the plants, and if they're a taller annual or perennial, you want to pinch the top out so that it branches, so that it covers real well. And we've got a lot of the creeping petunias, the petunias that crawl, and so the number of petunias you have to plant to cover an area is a lot less than it used to be. So the wave petunias, I was having a brain fart, I guess. But anyway, the wave petunias are just and they're in blossom all summer long, and then when they start to get a little ragged, you just go in and you cut them back to a foot or a little less and fertilize them, and away they go again. So, if you want color in your landscape, the annuals are the way to go. Plus, the bare root room is still open. We still have a decent supply of fruit trees and strawberries, asparagus, rhubarb, potatoes. It's not too late to plant potatoes. I haven't even started my garden yet, which is usually the way it goes. Memorial Day is when I get my garden planted. And because the soil is warmer, then the seeds jump out of the ground. And I'm not a whole lot behind the people that have their garden planted already. So, time to get those annuals and perennials and bulbs and things like that in your garden. And like I said, we've got the best people in the area for giving you advice, and so why not stop in?
I believe we do have a caller. By the way, 885-4446 is the number to call to get on the Garden Doctor Show if you have any garden-related questions. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're on the air with Dick Zondag from Jung's Garden Center.
Yes, I was in a store the other day. It's the first time in several years I've been there. I cannot believe the people who are so polite and so helpful.
Well, thank you. We do have a great staff. I have to compliment them,
I walked around and I didn't know. In fact, I talked to somebody that was a customer, but it was just, if I needed something, they took me right to it and packaged it up, and unbelievable. I haven't seen service like that in any other store in my life.
Well, thank you very much. We do try hard, and the people that we have are the greatest people in the world, and the customers also, because we just the people that plant plants and work in the soil, they're the best people in the world.
Right. So I just thought I'd call and tell you that.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
When time allows, we should talk a little bit about some of the areas of expertise that your staff has, and a little bit about them. You bet. They make the store go. Go to the other phone line. You're on the air with the Garden Doctor.
Good morning. I know the lilies of the valley are just starting to come out now, but when is the correct time to transplant them?
Probably about 2 weeks ago, but I think you can still, you can still transplant lily of the valley. They grow kind of like quackgrass. They have underground rhizomes, and so if you disconnect if you dig up a bunch of them, you'll find that there's a lot of rhizomes underground, and all you really need is an eye. And if you've got an eye present on that rhizome piece, you just transplant it there. So you're a little bit at the tail end of the transplanting season, but I think you can still get away with it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and then fertilize them too, because they do like to be fertilized.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks for calling.
Thank you for your call. Let's go to the other line. You're on the air with the Garden Doctor.
I was wondering if there's any safe way to kill the weeds around my asparagus.
You've really missed it. You can use Roundup, but you have to use it before the asparagus appears, because it will kill the asparagus as well as the weeds. One of the ways that you can selectively place the Roundup on the weeds and not on the asparagus is by using a paintbrush or putting on a plastic or a rubber glove, and then putting a cloth glove over it, and then dipping it into the Roundup, and then you just touch the quackgrass. You just pull it through your hand, but you really got to be careful not to touch any of the asparagus, because Roundup is a non-specific and non-selective herbicide. It kills almost everything it touches, so you got to be really, really careful. And read the label. I mean, the labels change constantly, so you got to make sure that it's labeled for that purpose also.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, thanks for calling.
All right, thank you very much for your call. 885-4446, 1920-885-4446 to get on the Garden Doctor show. And we do have a caller coming in. And you're on the air with the Garden Doctor. Go right ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you pinch back begonias?
Yes. Yeah, you can. Almost any plant you can pinch. And then all you really have to do, I tell people to take, at least one leaf when you're pinching it, because that way you've got the terminal. If you're really, really good and you know what you're doing, you don't really have to even take a leaf. But I always tell people to take a leaf, because that way you're for sure getting the stem. Because what happens then is the growing point produces a hormone that inhibits bud breaking, and so when you remove that growing point, the inhibitor disappears, and then the side branches will break, because they're fighting for who can be the dominant growing point. So yeah, especially if they're tall, just get in there and pinch a leaf off, and they'll branch out nicely and give you a much better display.
Okay, but you can take the top off to make them shorter, because this thing last year, it must have got about 2.5, 3 feet tall.
Yeah, well, if it's that, if it's a foot tall already, you can remove 6 inches, and as long as you've got some leaves and buds left, they will resprout and start over again.
Okay, I never knew that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for calling.
Bye.
All right, thank you for your call. 885-4446, 1920-885-4446. There's a lot. I hear the term rhizomes a lot for us non-gardeners. What are rhizomes?
Rhizomes are really stems that grow underground. I don't know if you've ever dug up quackgrass, but quackgrass has those white stems underground. Those are called rhizomes.
Okay.
And a lot of perennials grow from rhizomes. They're spreading underground tentacles that, keep the plant moving outward. Grass is also a rhizominous. Some of the bluegrass has rhizomes on it, and that's how it spreads. So in some cases it's very good. In other cases, like with quackgrass, every time you dig up quackgrass, if you don't get the whole plant, you're going to have more and more of those sprouts coming up. So, yeah, rhizomes are an underground stem, and they will sprout every once in a while and send something up. I talked about the roses a couple of programs ago. Yeah, my roses really got hammered this winter. A lot of them are coming from from near the ground. And the way that you tell if your rose is going to be a rose that you can keep is if it comes from above the graft union, you're fine. If it's dead past the graft union and it starts to grow from the rootstock, you might just as well dig it out, because all it will be is a big long sprout with no flowers on it. The rootstocks that we have our roses grafted onto are hardy rootstocks. So the rootstock lives, but if the rose dies back past that graft union, you haven't got the rose that you purchased anymore. So a lot of them are sprouting from the base. So in the next tonight, I don't think I've got anything on. So what I'm going to do is go out with the pruning shears and start counting the number of fatalities. And of course, I like to have fatalities in my rose garden, because then I can select some of the newer varieties and keep the rose garden looking nice. So.
How do you develop hybrids? I mean, do you
what they do is they actually roses have what are called rose hips.
Okay.
And the hips have seed inside of them. So what they do is they cross different varieties with different varieties.
Okay.
And then they take the seed from the hips and plant them. And I forget what the breeder told me. He told me one time that he has to start, I think, like 100,000 seedlings to get one new variety.
Really? Wow.
And a lot of what they're doing now is testing diseases. They're trying to get black spot resistant roses, so that when you plant a rose, you don't have to spray quite as much. But yeah, it takes a lot of work to develop a new rose variety. But if you do develop a rose variety, you're going to be, especially if it's a popular one like the Knockout series, the guy in Milwaukee, Bill Radler, that developed that, just cashing check after check after check, because they get royalties off those roses for, I think, 13 years. And so,
are there like national agricultural laboratories that work on this, or is it independent
people?
No,
some breeding is going on at universities, but most of it's going on at private people. I like to it's like a hobby.
Okay.
And they'll cross different roses with different roses. Problem with our area is that we have such a short growing season that the roses usually don't produce viable seeds by the end of the season. So you have to live in California or Texas or down there where they have a good long season, and then they just make the crosses and plant the seed and get them to a flowering point. And if they're not very good flowering, they throw them in the garbage.
Okay. All right, we got another call for Dick Zondag from Jung's Garden Center in Randolph. You're listening to the Garden Doctor Show. If you have any gardening-related questions, this is the person to ask. 885-4446, 1-920-885-4446. Caller, you're on the air with the Garden Doctor.
Well, I have a little different question to ask.
Okay.
If you were traveling on County Trunk W going into Juneau,
okay,
on the right-hand side of the road, south side, the grass is all nice and green already.
Okay.
And there are circles in that grass, maybe as much as 8 to 10, in a variety of sizes. What causes that?
If it's a different type of grass, there are bent grasses like they use on golf greens. that if they start seeding, they're pretty aggressive as far as forming
this
patches. Is this a different color or what?
This isn't a patch of grass. It's just a circle made. Maybe that circle looks like an inch wide if you're driving in the car.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a perfect circle, and some are larger than others.
Well, sometimes that comes from your dog, too.
Well,
where there's a lot of extra nitrogen there.
Yeah.
You get a tough.
Quite a wide area, and it's on the shoulder of the road.
I guess what I would say, I think it's probably bent grass, and if you start getting bent grass in your lawn, you're going to be sorry. My advice is to get out some Roundup and kill it, because it's a very aggressive grass, and it turns brown pretty fast in the fall. Most people don't like it, but it's another rhizominous grass like we were talking about that has rhizomes. And the reason it's circular, because it's just moving out and taking over the territory with these rhizomes. And so, if you've got patches of bent grass in your lawn, you've got to kill that right away, or it will take over your lawn. It'll kill bluegrass.
Well, I wouldn't think that this was a patch. It's just like as if you'd lay a hula hoop down.
Yeah.
Is it more like a donut than a circle?
Well, it's round, pretty much perfect round.
Okay, well, if I had to guess at it without seeing it, that's what I would guess it is. It would be patches of bent grass that are taking over the bluegrass.
How does it get started there, then?
Seeds. A bird will drop a seed in the middle of your lawn, and the seed will germinate, and pretty soon you've got one seed will really take over.
Well, that was the weirdest thing when the grass started coming out green to see.
Yeah, the way you describe it, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. We have one of our employees that has problems with bent grass, and their whole ditch is turning into bent grass. So, what they got to do is they've got to get in there and kill it, because it will take over a whole area.
Okay, thank you for explaining it.
Yep, thanks for calling.
Thank you for your call. That's why Dick Zondag is here to answer your garden-related questions. 885-444-6192, 885-4446. I got about 10 minutes or so left to take phone calls. I got a question about shelf life. I've been using Miracle-Gro. That's probably been in our cupboard for 8-9 years.
Yeah, that's no problem.
It's okay.
No, most of the fertilizers are salts. And they're not going to be degraded. They're not chemicals. I mean, they're not a carbon-based product. They're nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And so, you have to put a piece of bread in there, though, to keep it from caking.
It's gotten a little hard over the years, yes.
But, they're perfectly fine for using. Another thing that I was going to talk about, too, is those nice yellow flowers that are really showing up in our lawns. It's really now the time to get them before they go to seed. And so, we sell a product called Weed Beater Ultra. It's a bonite product. I know they do some advertising on WBEV, but very effective against the dandelions, the plantain lily, the creeping Charlie. Very, very good chemical, and I guess I recommend not using the weed and feed, although we do have the weed and feed available. But to feed your lawn with fertilizer, but then get the liquid Weed Beater Ultra and put that in a sprinkling can, and it tells you, how much per 1,000 square feet. And so what you do is you get a sprinkling can out, and on your driveway, you fill it with water, and on your driveway, you figure out, how much area you can cover with one sprinkling can of water. If it's 10 by 40, that's 400 square feet. You measure the amount of chemical, or the amount of square feet that you can cover with your sprinkling can, and then you figure out, if it's 2 tablespoons per 1,000 square feet, and you can cover an area 20 by 20 by 25, that's 500 square feet. So you take 1 tablespoon and put it in the sprinkling can. And I don't know that that's still the rate, but the rate will be told on the can. And then you can go around and treat certain areas. You don't have to treat the areas where you don't have the dandelions, but the area where you have the dandelions, you can treat that area. And it's very effective against dandelions. They kind of curl up and turn white and disappear.
They effective after even it's gone to seed?
I mean, because the plant has gone to seed doesn't mean it dies. It just stays there, and it's probably better if you do it before they go to seed, because that way you're killing the plant, and a lot of the seed right now is being distributed. So, get in there and take those out, because you can see people that do that have beautiful green lawns, and their neighbors right next to them, it's yellow and green right now, and so they're constantly fighting that battle. The other thing that you can do is fertilize your lawn, because if you have a fast-growing, good-growing lawn, the dandelions don't have room to start. The way you can tell if your lawn needs fertilizer is you get a little bag of fertilizer and you put your initials in the lawn.
Okay.
And if that area is nice and green and it's taller and it grows faster, your grass is starving. That's the way my dad used to sell fertilizer. Is he'd give them a little paper bag full of fertilizer and tell them to go put their initials in the lawn, and they'd be coming back for a bag of fertilizer to cover their initials up.
885-4446, 1-920-885-4446, the number to call to get on the Garden Doctor Show. We're going to discuss some of your staff, Dick. We don't talk about them that often, but cite some of the folks and their areas of expertise, if you could.
Well, the manager there is John, and he has a pretty good background in most of the things that we sell there. And so Maggie is another one, and she's really good with helping customers find things and simple questions and things like that. So, and a lot of the part-time staff are gardeners too. So if you've got a question about what varieties to use, we can help you with that, depending on the soil type that you've got. And so, if you've got annuals, you're looking for annuals, patties out in the vegetable area, vegetable plant in the annuals area, and she can point you out. We've got beautiful hanging baskets now if you want to put a hanging basket up, both for the sun and the shade. So, we've got a really good supply of almost everything right now. And the bare root room is starting to run down a little bit, but then we've got the outdoor nursery with those things potted. So, they can do that.
All right, let's go to the phones, 885-4446, the number to call to get on the Garden Doctor Show. Hi, you're on the air with Dick Zondag from Jung's Garden Center.
Yes. I was wondering what a person can do with mushrooms that come up around the tree stumps. If there's anything that you can do they come up every other day or so. They get bigger and bigger. So.
Well, the mushrooms are there. The mushrooms are the fruiting bodies of the fungus that's rotting the wood. And so fertilizing your lawn in the area would get those microorganisms growing faster, so they rot the wood faster. The only thing you can really do is dig more of the stump out, because those mushrooms are going to be there until the wood disappears. So there isn't really a whole lot you can do about that. That's God's way of getting rid of the excess wood that's in the lawn from the roots and the tree stumps that are left behind. So that's another reason that a lot of people like to have their stumps ground out, because then they don't have to worry about that. We do have a product called Stump Remover that can be used, but that is the microorganism that does the rotting of the wood, so it would probably give you more mushrooms. So you're probably going to have to wait until the wood is gone underneath the ground, unless you dig some of it out.
Well, we dug ground down and did most of that.
Okay.
Out of there, but...
How long has it been?
It's been about 3 years.
Oh. Well, you should be getting close to the end of it then, because it's usually 3 to 5 years that those mushrooms will take to digest all the roots that are underground.
Yes, because Sunday I come home and they're just covered. I mean, there's not one here and there. They're just those little brown mushrooms. And I take my little rake and rake them all off.
Yeah,
and pick them up
there's
and
no
throw them
chemical that I know of that will kill those mushrooms. Okay.
Yes, and also with the other side, they're from the birch trees that we put down, and these were down below there. Seemed like there was always like a sap on this one that run down when we took them down for a long time.
That was because of the birch leaf miner. That was
the other side were 3 birch trees too. We took down, and those aren't bothering at all.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got time for at least one more caller. Caller, you're on the air with Dick Zondag. Go right ahead.
Hi. We bought a new farmhouse we're moving into, and we don't have a lawn. We got burdocks.
Okay.
And I bought a couple of things at the store, and I think it just made them grow bigger. I don't think it killed them.
The only thing that will, the most effective thing for killing burdock, if you're not trying to grow grass underneath it, is Roundup. That kills everything. And you can treat the weeds with Roundup, and about a week later, you can work them under and plant your grass seed.
Okay.
There's no residual for Roundup. Roundup, whatever hits the ground, is deactivated, and it takes about a week for the plants to to start to die from the Roundup. It kills the roots and everything. So we've got a couple different preparations of Roundup in our garden center. So
okay, what about we got a lot of burdocks by lilacs, and I hate to have them, something go on with them. Can you just dig the burdock up and then maybe pour a little Roundup just down the root?
you gotta hit the green part of the plant to kill it. So with that, what I would do is take a paintbrush rather than trying to spray it on, because if you spray it on the lilacs, it'll make them sick too.
Yeah.
So just take a paintbrush or a roller or something and paint it right on the burdocks, and that will take care of them.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for your call. And we're done with phone calls right now, Dick. Again, talk about what's happening at Jung's.
Well, the annuals are arriving almost every other day. We're getting in new shipments of annuals, and they're in their prime. Time to get them home, and maybe they should be outside for a day or two to harden them off a little bit, but then take some fertilizer along too, and get them in the ground. Put some compost in the ground so that your nutrients won't just wash through, and you've got a nice soil texture. And work the soil up, plant your annuals and your vegetable crops, and away they go. So, we've got a very good selection of annuals. Of course, there are fruit trees and strawberries and asparagus and all sorts of things still available for planting in your garden. A time to get your garden in. I know I haven't got mine in yet, so there's plenty of time to get the garden in, to get those beans up, and the radishes and carrots and all those sorts of things. So we've got probably the best selection of varieties of vegetables in the state. Our seed wall is unbeatable. And our people in the garden centers, again, are just really knowledgeable. And if they don't know, they can get you to somebody that does know. So, come to Jung's. We'll get your questions answered. If you've got a problem, bring a piece of it along, and we'll give you, or we'll sell you the product that you need to take care of the problem. So store hours in Randolph are 8 to 6 Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 on Saturday, and we're not open on Sunday. The stores in Madison are 9 to 7 Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 on Saturday, and Sunday 10 to 3. So,
all right, Dick, as usual, thank you for all your expertise, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yep, thank you, John.
And that is the Garden Doctor show for today. The Garden Doctor, a paid presentation of Jung's Garden Center in Randolph.